So I learned a lot in this chapter because this chapter was on assessing communities, and the last chapter we learned about the different definitions of what a community means, because it isn't just a geographic space, but it's so much more and it has so many more connections than just a physical spot. So this chapter just gave me more information about what it means to be a social worker, like in the community realm. And so it talked about like the reasons that we even need it, and how this macro level change is super important to understand the people, and there's different approaches that can be made, which some of them are like the community development, community organizing, community planning, and progressive change. And so it just broke down each of these different spots. And then the book also gave two examples of different communities, one being like a community that is having problems in domestic violence and the women's shelters. And the social worker did research and found out that the Latina women aren't being given full resources in the community, and the social worker went about finding like the strengths and like where the needs are, and it just gave me a better understanding of the process that a social worker would go through, as well as the steps to take after you find out that information. And so that was super helpful, and it gave like the 4 different tasks. The first one being identify focal community, task 2 locate data and information, task 3 assess community assets, task 4 assess community structure and capacity. And so there is a lot of information, because like you learn in social work to dive deeper and learn, and never assume any of the problems. And so we learn about gathering this information and doing this research, but a lot of the times we forget, or a lot of the times I forget, like what are the steps after, and how are you going to approach these problems, and like what are other questions that need to be asked that you won't think of right off the bat, but you'll come to those questions after you learn more and you're getting more data and information. So one really big thing was I liked how the chapter just kept saying like how everything is connected, and how nothing will be segregated. Nothing, it's never just like its own separate problem, but it will relate back to others. And I also like how it talked about the like location of like locating the community needs, issues, and problems, and then it gave like a chart about ways to go about that and different methods, and how there's people and resources that you can go to as a social worker to find out more. Okay, and so we just learned about all these approaches, but I have 2 questions. One being, social workers are on the front lines, and people often demand answers to their problems. Since we learned about how long the process takes, what are some of the best approaches to those questions when you're getting bombarded with people asking you, what are you going to do about it? And you're still in the beginning of the process. How do you answer those questions? Then my second question is, in the examples given in this chapter, it seemed like there's a lot of community participation with the social workers. What happens when nobody wants to participate and you're just hitting all these roadblocks?